رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي واجعل لي وزيرا من أهلي. السلام عليكم. So now we'll be looking at 3 verses, and this is about the good news given to Prophet Abraham about his sons Ishmael and Isaac. And look at the way the sons are described in these 3 verses. In the first verse, chapter number 37, Surah Safat, verse 101, we gave him the good news. We gave him the good news of a forbearing son. The son is described as forbearing. In Surah Dhariyat, chapter number 51, verse 28, gave him the good news of a knowledgeable son. He was given the good news of a knowledgeable son is described as knowledgeable. In Surah Hijr, chapter number 15, verse 53, surely we give you the good news of a knowledgeable son. The son here is described as knowledgeable, and I'm not sure exactly who they are, but I think knowledgeable means is Isaac, and forbearing is Ishmael. Now the question is, it doesn't matter really for the purposes of what the linguistic miracle that I'm showing you right now. Who is who? The explanation doesn't matter. What matters is the way these sons are described. So in Safat, the son is described as a forbearing son. In Surah Dhariyat and Surah Hijr, in both these verses, he's described as a knowledgeable son. That's clear to you. Now let me show you something you probably couldn't have thought of. You couldn't have imagined what I'm about to show you. Just generally, in general, just look at the whereabouts, the verses that come after or below or before these verses, and just look at the way, the tone of those verses, the context or the tone of those verses, the way they're the way God has presented those verses. So let's see. The verse starts when the people tried to burn Prophet Abraham. I'll try to start from here. They said to one another, build him a furnace and cast him into the blazing fire. If people are trying to hurt you, you need forbearance, right? So they sought to harm Abraham, but we made them inferior. He later said, I'm leaving in obedience to my Lord. He will guide me. God bless me with righteous offspring. So he gave him the good news of a forbearing son. Then let's go. What happens ahead? Then the boy reached the age to work with him. Abraham said, oh my dear son, I've seen a dream that I must sacrifice. So tell me, what do you think? He replied, oh my father, do as you are commanded. Allah willing, you will find me steadfast. And when they submitted, again you see there is forbearance. He's being commanded to sacrifice his son, and the son is showing forbearance. So within the context, look, he's described as a forbearing son, but out of nowhere, when we look at the context of what's going on the whereabouts of this specific verse, what's before it, what's after it, there is a general idea of forbearance and perseverance. Here Prophet Abraham was he was threatened to be burned in the fire before, and then afterwards his son had to be sacrificed, and his son showed steadfastness. So there is steadfastness, and somehow his son is described as forbearing son. Subhanallah. And how is the context? Just the verses, the story is going on, and the context even fits with the description of the son somehow. However, if you go to Surah Dhariyat, where it says knowledgeable son, you see the context. If you see the context of these verses, you just go ahead and see. Let's start from here. It says, Hal Ataka, chapter 51, verse 24. It says, has the story of Abraham's honored guest reached you, O Prophet? Meaning as in to say, we are about to inform you, give you knowledge of what this story was. Sets up a mood for being educated, right? That God is about to tell you a story and about to educate you, right? The story goes on and on and on until after we reach this verse saying knowledgeable son. Even after this verse, it says instead of showing forbearance, there is more like a seeking explanation. See, when the good news was given to the wife, she was in old age. She couldn't understand why. How can I give birth in old age? She says her wife was her wife came forward with a cry, clasping her forehead in astonishment, exclaiming, "A baby from a barren old woman!" Meaning, instead of like showing forbearance, she was like, how can this happen, right? And then the very next verse it says, "Such is your Lord," etc., all wise, all knowing. Again, knowledge in the perspective. And then again, Ibrahim asked, "What is your mission?" Again, seeking knowledge. So the context here is of that of knowledge, and somehow the son is described as knowledgeable. How is this happening? This, it's so weird that the description of the son is very much matching the context of the verses. It's the same thing in Surah Al-Hijr. If you go to, it says a knowledgeable son, and if you, this in verse 53, if you go to, let's say, verse 49, it says, "Inform my servants." That means give them information that I am truly the all forgiving, the most merciful, and what else? And that my torment is indeed painful. Again, it's like in the tone of giving you information. And then again you have and then inform them about Abraham's guest. Again, it's in the tone of as in to convey information, convey knowledge. And then even after that, he, instead of showing forbearance, he says, "Do you give me good news despite my old age? What unlikely news?" Meaning, he's kind of as if to seek explanation for how is that gonna happen, right? So you see, and even then he asks the questions, "What is your mission?" Again, seeking knowledge. So the context where there is seeking of knowledge, it says knowledgeable son. Now I just want you to wonder, how is the Quran doing this? Just a description of the son, forbearing son, knowledgeable son, knowledgeable son. And every time the son is described with a specific word, that same theme is running before that verse or after that verse. Somehow this very same theme is running. How is that? Who could have even imagined that this is how the text would be going on? I'm asking a question. Can any poet, can any magician even produce something like this, where somehow this is just mind-blowing? You can't even imagine something being described, just a description of the sun, and then you see that the general theme is very much according to the description. Subhanallah, this is what cements or firmly establishes faith in the heart. And then then we have, I don't even know how our young people, unless and until you don't have faith. You see, it's when you have faith, that's when you're willing to work hard despite the difficulty, because you're sure you're going to get the salary at the end of the month. You get up every single day, get ready, go to work, because you have faith, 100% conviction that you're going to get salary. It's the same way I want youngsters, especially the youngsters, to develop this 100% certainty within themselves that the Quran is indeed the word of God. This is not something that can be produced by a magician or a poet or anyone else. This is just some magicians probably can't even spell their own name. How can they write or come up with a piece of literature, right? Because this conviction is necessary, because otherwise it just grieves me that youngsters wasting away their health smoking cigarettes, or youngsters wasting away their time video games or watching shameless movies, wasting away their time doing nothing of substance. Why? Because of I believe it's because of the lack of that cemented faith, the deep grounded faith that is needed. So may God give us, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us and our ummah complete conviction in the Quran as the word of God. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.